I work for Solent Healthcare Trust and I work for the Rapid Response Team, which is predominantly responsible for hospital avoidance of older people. So trying to keep them at home when they've been unwell rather than admitting to hospital. In my area of work, I see lots of older people at home and quite vulnerable people, often with dementia, and not necessarily people to look after them. And on a day-to-day basis, I noticed that they had quite poor oral health care. Lots of healthcare professionals were going in and not necessarily noticing that oral health care was a problem. And so I just wanted to actually do some research to confirm the problem and just discuss provision of oral health care in a community nursing setting. The main conclusion was that my anecdotal observations in practice that it was being missed. My research picked up that that was actually the case. Oral health care wasn't in high regard to other healthcare professionals at all, and its importance was quite misunderstood. A colleague of mine had had a good experience with the Florence Nightingale Foundation. She'd had a scholarship to travel to do some research, and I was coming to the end of the funding for my MSc, and it seemed a good idea to explore it. So it wasn't really on my radar until then. Having received the scholarship funding, the Florence Nightingale Foundation were really useful if I had any problems to do with the research process. They were always at the end of the phone or an email and were very accessible for help. One of their experts who were on the interview panel, I was actually able to access him as well because my research, he'd done some previous research in that area, so it was useful to have an expert who can quite often be difficult to contact when you're just a nurse in a specific area. The application process to get the scholarship funding, it was really accessible for anybody. It was very easy to go online and fill out an application. And there was an interview involved, which was a bit more grilling about which research I was hoping to do and how I was going to conduct it. But it was very user-friendly, the whole process to apply. I think as a nurse, having undertaken a scholarship with the Florence Nightingale Foundation, it's increased my options to carry out some future research, and it's certainly forwarded my career in that I now have an MSc compared to just having a degree, which hopefully will make me a step ahead of other nurses at the moment. I definitely recommend the sponsorship programme to others because it has been accessible. For me, I've found it quite a convenient process to go through to secure funding. In nursing, it's not always easy to get that funding. So to know that you might have a financial sponsorship from someone such as NHSP, it's really good to use that, and I definitely advise someone to go for it. It would be quite nice to do future research to discover why oral health care is missed, because an initial step was just to actually formalise and to identify that it was a problem. So some future research I might like to do would be to acknowledge why it's a problem and research into that area.